Hey everybody, welcome to XI4C. We're here to talk about Daredevil Born Again Season 2. We just got the premiere. I'm Nico.
I'm TK.
And that makes me Kevo. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe so we know what you want us to cover in the future. I am so stoked to be talking comic stuff.
Yeah, I am really surprised because it kind of feels like Daredevil Born Again Season 2 took forever to get here. And I'd maybe forgot just how many plots there were. And there are so many.
It's funny. I really didn't feel that way.
Oh, I felt like there was just like so many characters and every character has their own plot. And like, that's important. You know,
Yeah.
when you've got a female character like the quote unquote girlfriend to the superhero, and Matt has several here, you've got some room to really drop the ball. But instead, they're giving the Muse storyline over to Heather Glenn, who's doing some interesting things here with Muse. They have Karen Page have this beautiful storyline with BB, who is of course Ben's niece, and it's so fascinating to see how these characters needed their stories in a way that honestly meant that there was less Kingpin and less Matt in a lot of ways.
I didn't rewatch anything. I didn't rewatch season 1 at all. And I slotted right back in, and I was immediately like, oh man, we're right back. I remember, like, you're right. Everybody, there were a lot of plot lines, but it wasn't like, I can't even remember who this character is or what's happening, which, you know, one, like, also, thank God it actually hasn't been that long. It sounds like we're not getting the new Pluribus season, maybe even in 2027. I am going to have completely forgotten what happened in that show by the time it comes out. Severance, I also probably, by the time the next season comes out, will forget what happened. In this day and age, a year is not so bad. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. Every single thing that I saw, I remember pretty much where I'm supposed to be. And like, I was so comfortable sitting back down into this show, which was one of the best parts about it right off the bat for me.
I definitely remember the things that they didn't feel like overwhelming. It's just a lot of plots in a way that really forces us to think about how the time and space is being marshaled. Mm-hmm. You know, I think to the hit of Wonder Man and just how incredibly focused that story was. There were very few moments that did not focus on the main two characters in a way that was pleasant, in a way that really worked for the show. And I think here, despite having two such strong lead actors in Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, choosing to have this wealth of other characters is, and you know, of course, Matthew Lillard playing Matthew Lillard character.
And I didn't feel necessarily overwhelmed, or at least not in a negative way. There was a lot, but even though this is not the same gap, like TK was saying, that a lot of prestige dramas tend to be taking nowadays, you know, it's been a while. So I feel like they were trying to make sure that we were fed, returning now for this second season right away. I feel like I was more overwhelmed by the previously on than the episode itself. It turned out that every single thing that was in the previously on pretty much got touched in this episode. So that was actually super helpful. And we didn't rewatch and were able to slip back in very easily. You know, I had said in our coverage of the finale last year that with everything going on in the world, some stuff in this show is a little bit less fun, and that's even truer now. But there were still so many great, fun, positive, exciting, and interesting things, and things I wasn't expecting either.
For the most part, I think that we have entered an age where we are becoming kind of spoiler proof in a lot of ways because of just how many leaks there are, how many controlled leaks. I wanted to sort of touch on Matt Murdock is missing, Daredevil still doing his thing, cleaning up Hell's Kitchen. Fisk is running a cult of personality style media blitz, making himself the hero of New York. And there is this like very Guy Fawkes mask, V for Vendetta kind of, but who is the real Wilson Fisk? And I think it's BB who's behind it, but she's also doing all of the press for Wilson, and she is coming into her own, connecting with Karen, who's working with Matt. Heather Glenn is manifesting Muse while working for Fisk, having taken care of Fisk previously, and also somehow in all of this, Punisher's not coming back, but Jessica Jones is.
But we're seeing the Punisher logo a lot on Fisk's, task force cronies outfits, which I thought was a great touch.
Yeah.
Heather, great character development. I mean, I think this is such a real thing that happens where people, Heather was kind of in the world of Daredevil, kind of on the conservative side of the values in Daredevil's world. She was definitely not somebody who was super stoked about mass vigilantism. She was very skeptical of it, and she loved her work, and I think took a lot of pride in the fact that she was helping the Fisks. She takes professional pride, like she's invested personally in their relationship, and and then the line gets blurred because now she wants to support this guy who she is professionally supporting. It doesn't feel contrived, but it also feels horrible because you have those friends who become MAGA. And it's like some weird bad thing happened to them. They support a politician who's going to support Donald Trump, but who did not originally start super conservative. And it just spirals until you have this person that you're just kind of looking at and you don't recognize anymore. To me, that was the plot line that was most chilling. That was one that I was like, I completely remember what happened here. And I sort of, until she appeared on screen, forgot that she was a person.
That's what I was saying in the beginning of this. There's just so many people.
Yeah. So like when I first saw her, I was like, oh, that's right. She exists too. And then when they started getting into her plot, I immediately remembered everything that was key. And they just gave us such great detail there. I was heartbroken, but also like really on the edge of my seat.
Well, and speaking of her plotline and characters that we often sometimes forget even exist, Swordsman coming up yet again, continuing to be a through line after Hawkeye is such an interesting choice. He's not that big in the comics, is my understanding.
He's big
which
enough.
Is fine.
Yeah. They gave him a huge plot line a while back. But yeah, I mean, he's not the biggest. I love the cock tease here of the fact that he's like been out there being a superhero, and we don't know. We've never seen what he looks like. We've not seen his outfit or anything. He's clearly been engaging in superhero antics, but that's just like you have to make that story up entirely for yourself. And that's fun because, like, I don't super care about this dude. But also, I'm like, are we getting a big reveal on the costume by season's end?
It is a marked difference from the way that superheroism was treated when it was still on Netflix. They had to say things like the guy with the hammer or the big guy, and they really tried to lean away from it. But we've already seen White Tiger, and so they are trying to make it not too fantastical for street level, but they fully acknowledge what's, around them.
So how is everybody feeling about the Fisk narrative and how it's moving forward? I think we are getting, political allegories, don't get me wrong, but one of the other things that I am fascinated by is the way Fisk is pretending that his hands are always clean still, that he has created this idyllic New York that is beautiful and untouchable and unapproachable, and I meant unreproachable, but it's actually unapproachable. It feels too perfect. It feels almost exclusionary. And when somebody's like, New York's back, and like that's such a thing that doesn't really work with young people, that you understand that his projection of New York is so false, so fake, so stylized that it might as well be WandaVision. And I'm interested to see how the don't pay attention to the kingpin behind the curtain is going to go here.
I love that framing of it. And it's totally true. I mean, like the beautiful tone deafness of the New York is back campaign. And I do think you're right. I mean, I think if BB is not responsible for the Oppo programming as well, I will be very stoked to get the reveal of what's going on. But it seems like, you know, the reveal from last season was that she was clearly intentionally playing both sides and that she was finding some other way to publish the other stories. So I did love that. As we saw it coming up and I was like, oh, Wilson's on an upswing now. I did still think when we saw Matthew Lillard, he would be playing some version of a Stromwyn. I'm a little bummed about that only because he's playing somebody who is grander than Wilson's League, which is interesting. It sort of is going to serve a similar purpose to what the Stromwyns did. But they were so cool because they were basically exactly Wilson, but 2 levels of gameplay up. They just constantly made him feel like a little boy. So even when he's riding high as mayor in the Devil's Reign storyline, the opposition for him comes in the form of these people that make him feel smaller, and that's when he gets really scary again and really cool and really complex. I think we'll get to similar beats here just through a different route. I did love the Allegra de Fontaine name drop that we got, and that she is somehow associated with Matthew Lillard's character, Mr. Charles. Because yeah, I mean, like, the first thing that got me thinking, Kevo, that you're right, like that maybe was a character they would not have named, and they would have just said Langley and maybe sort of left you to fester on it. But then my first question became, oh, the new Avengers are operating in a tower in Fisk's New York right now.
Right.
And, you know, Allegra is now in the mix in some capacity and aware of weapons running that is happening through New York, through Wilson Fisk. Fascinating. I don't know if that's going to all become one big storyline, because Marvel seems to really shy away from letting that stuff happen. But I would not hate an explanation of what the Thunderbolts are doing, and that some sort of reference to, like, well, now they're on really morally ambiguous lines because they're more on Fisk's side than they are on Matt's right now.
Yeah.
And it's because we still don't know if Daredevil is going to appear in any film.
Right.
And, you know, I do wonder if, because, you know, he's in the Shadowland costume, we know the Hand are involved. I really wonder if he's going to become the Shadowland Daredevil, where he leads the Hand and he's corrupt and he's sticking people in cages underground. You know, it's iconography we're already getting. And it takes, like, all of the heroes of New York rising up against him to stop him. And he could secretly be, like, some of the villainy in Brand New Day. Even if it's not villainy, even if the Hand come for some other purpose and Daredevil's directing them, and, you know, we could go a lot of places with it. But one of the things that I feel like we are missing out on is the other people in Doomsday and Secret Wars. I feel like we are in a holding pattern on saying exactly who else is in it, because, you know, RDJ made that joke, you know, oh yeah, there's so many more, when's the other half? And so I really wouldn't be surprised if it were revealed that, you know, Matt ultimately is in those 2 movies. He's just not been announced because they don't want to blow him being in Spider-Man first.
I hope you're right. I mean, Matt has already been in Spider-Man, so that's not going to be a huge reveal if we get that. That'll feel really right. That'll feel comfortable. Him being in Avengers would feel a lot bigger to me, and it would feel like a lot. I don't need everything to cross over a lot. I understand that there's fear about the Disney Plus stuff and the stuff that goes on the big screen crossing over. I think they're too skittish about that, but that's fine. I don't need it. I mean, like, Matt is a perfect character to have his whole life that's going on this show, but to appear in Avengers Endgame and his life doesn't really matter. You don't need to have seen Daredevil for him to be in Endgame, and you won't really need to see Doomsday, and you won't really need to see him in Doomsday to go back to the 3rd season of Daredevil. This is just an adventure that he had. It's such a common thing to happen in comics.
Oh yeah.
And I really think it's feasible. Similarly, I think it's feasible. I know it's too much star power and too much money, but I think it would be feasible for some Thunderbolts to show up here, for some of the new Avengers to show up in this show and like speak to the thing that I was talking about. And those adventures don't have to affect anything else in a particular way that you're missing something if you don't watch one thing or the other. But they've got the rights to these characters and the sort of setup for why they might be there. I wish they would use it in some ways that they can sort of feel confident we're all safe with.
And I actually kind of need that too, is the thing at a certain point. Something that we already know that we can be really excited about, even though we don't really understand the context, like we're saying, is that Frank is going to be in Spider-Man. That is really exciting and really cool. But this is a TV character coming over to film, again, like Daredevil coming into Spider-Man. And we've had film characters in their own shows, Loki, Wanda, Bucky and Sam even. But like, I really need it to be okay for the film actors to be in the TV shows. The one that I really always felt the most strongly about that with was Spider-Man. But I at least understand, Sony is weird. There's only so much we can do there. But it is actually a little bit important. And it is something that would help really reinforce this show, is to be able to do that.
And I think part of the challenge is doing it organically and in ways that make sense, not for anything other than reality. Even a guy like Chris Hemsworth gets back in Thor shape. And, I don't think Florence Pugh always has such dead hair. And, they got to fit the wig, even if it's a wig.
I mean, this is what I was about to say. The one person who is perfectly capable of doing this, who's already back and forth between big and small screen, and who is the exact right person to annoy the shit out of Matt, is John Walker.
Oh, yeah.
Is Wyatt Russell.
I completely agree. And, there's a lot of, mechanics that go into getting these people. But if you sort of have been reading the news, it kind of sounds like Doomsday has just been an epic 12-month filming process and no one's left. They're all trapped on this little filming island. And I think that the trick would be finding ways that Spider-Man could be a secret guest star on Daredevil. Finding ways that you could sneak Daredevil into these movies. Doing little things like that would really go a long way, because while I did love seeing, so many characters, like I said, have such complete story moments here already in the first episode, whether it's Karen and BB connecting over their admiration for Ben, whether it's Fisk and his little Fisk family kind of obviously losing the plot a little bit. You can see already there's cracks in the foundation and the control. It all worked really well, but there's not enough room, but one more thing is too much.
Is Jessica Jones one more thing?
I don't know. Does she come back before someone else is written out? Does she come back in before something else is solved? Is she part of solving something else? Does Karen go missing and she helps Matt find Karen? If it's in service of something else, no. But if it's just oh, look, and also Jess is here, then I am kind of guys, you decide how long these episodes are at random.
Because that's something that was interesting about season 1 as well. The White Tiger part, for even as short as season 1 was an arc, and we continued to see, was it his daughter? But, we saw her again, but that arc was pretty much just the first part of the season, and so I really appreciate and agree with Nico's point that we might wrap something else up, and, that'll allow for more room. And for as much as I am annoyed by how short Prestige shows are, this one I appreciate packing so much in. It's not like one of those long, ponderous ones, which, again, I love the art of Pluribus, but this is not that. This is stuff is happening all the time.
And I mean, I was thinking a lot about this too, the idea of the plot lines that actually did wrap up before the season ended. Muse being another one. Like, they were basically done with Muse before, like, Muse was kind of the secondary big bad of the season. Like, you sort of thought it was going to be that, and then it was just like, no, Wilson is actually always the big bad, and he's swinging around to take up screen space again for the end of the season, which is sort of a brilliant way to do it, because you kind of always think of him as the big bad, but then they let him simmer and let other stuff happen, so that you sort of think the show is just going to focus on this other stuff, and we'll get to Wilson later. And it came around really big at the end of the season, and it felt like Muse had basically been wrapped up. Now we're picking up kind of a new Muse storyline that I don't know if it's going to be Heather becoming Muse, if we will start pulling in some afterlife stuff, which is where Muse has been in the comics lately. I was also curious because we've talked about so much stuff, but when it comes to this idea of having, like, we can't have one more thing, was Bullseye showing up at the very end of the episode one thing too many for you, or was that where we hit perfect balance?
It was still fine.
Yeah.
Right? Because, like, I believe that they're not going to try and advance every story every week.
Yeah.
I think that we're going to see a progressive movement through this bigger picture of Daredevil, right? Because, like, there are so many characters here, and, like, compared to Wonder Man, where there were really 2 and more.
Mm-hmm.
Here, there's really 10. Like, there's just a lot of people here. So I accept Bullseye, I think, because he's already a part of this, because he's already the person that brought down Foggy. And, you know, there's this thing going around that originally Foggy was going to come back in the death of Foggy Nelson kind of homage to a thing from the comics, from the Brubaker run. But then it sounds like they've changed their mind on that, and they feel that plays a little differently and silly on TV. So Foggy might not really be back at all. And that's such a great change to make. Obviously, I will miss this incredible performance of this really refined character. Comic Foggy sucks a lot, and this character doesn't. And I think killing him instead of Karen is great, because there's no reason to fridge Karen.
Yeah, and I think, you know, Karen remains compelling to us, maybe because not a lot has been done with her because she's been dead in the comics. But as you said, Foggy is not, it's been decades. The best writers in the world, Chip Zdarsky, have written Foggy, and he's still not good. Like, Foggy is not great in the Zdarsky run either. Just no run manages to make him super exciting. So we can flip the script and kill him in this universe and have that be one of those things that Matt really can never recover from. And Karen gets to stay here, where Karen did a lot, and I think has unlived potential in her years as a character, because comics killed her off and have kept her dead for so long. I have to return to Bullseye for a second. Was that not the most romantic thing he possibly could have done for Matt?
Oh, no, I know. It was so sweet. I love Lester.
And the love note.
That's what I'm saying. He is flirting with Matt because Bullseye is gay. And if you don't know this, I've now just told you, so you're welcome.
Yeah, Bullseye has a lot of sexual needs from men that he sees as his equal or better. And he's definitely an emotional pain sub. So,
and just desperately wants Matt.
I guess you could say they have a heated rivalry. And
that's what I was gonna do, some heated rivalry references. Yes, okay. I'm glad we're all on the same page. Anyway, I can't wait to see how this materializes. I did not love this character prior to Born Again, but I think Born Again has used him very well.
Yeah, kept him more of a specter in the background.
Yeah, seeing how he grows is now something I'm very interested in. So, I mean, I agree. I don't think we are at too much yet, and I did sort of love when all we got was just the knife with the bullseye and the note as sort of our knowledge that he's there for the episode. But it did kind of sort of wrap everything with this beautiful bow of like, and that's Matt's world. Like, now here we are, episode 1, that's everything.
And it's because he can't escape who he is. He can't escape the confines of Hell's Kitchen, no matter what form of Matt he's taking or Daredevil he's taking, he is still bound by being that character in that modality. And I think that's part of what makes this exciting to watch, because we know that at the end of the day, he has to find a way back to Matt and Daredevil. He can't leave half of it behind. So what is that path for him this time? How is he getting there? The detour in She-Hulk, I want to know more about it. I want to know how it fits into the narrative. If the rumors are true and that we're going to see Elektra and possibly Iron Fist in season 3, how are we getting back to that?
This is a very, very fleshed out piece of the MCU, and I lament that it's not more robustly utilized. Because I mean, again, like I keep flashing back to the new Avengers / Thunderbolts, because they're not super spectacular. They're pretty street level, and especially if it's just Wyatt Russell as U.S. Agent, who also, you know, started on a Disney Plus show. He started on Falcon and Winter Soldier, so like that character is appropriate for both screens, as I said. I'm so captivated by this world every time. And the other thing I realized is that I think I love these action sequences from Daredevil more than any action sequences in the MCU.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you know, that hallway scene spoiled us forever. And, you know, the show has been constantly trying to match it or outdo it ever since.
Yeah.
And I think the opening for this episode, number one, you know, getting him in the suit right away, no illusion, just getting us right to it. Amazing. And starting it with a "you want action, well, here's action" kind of moment. It had a lot of the charm of the Netflix fights, but with the honestly better lighting of the Disney Plus years. I thought it was a really strong opening.
Really strong opening, and then a really strong closing with that fight scene as well. Again, I just love the intimacy of this show and like the closed spaces. You know, it was just specific scene in I think it's Winter Soldier, maybe it's Civil War, where Cap is fighting Crossbones and the rest of the guys in the elevator. It's just such a specific scene because it's one of very few claustrophobic scenes in the big screen MCU, because why are you going to do that when we have this whole screen to have people be so spaced out? Why you're almost always going to use that space unless you want to give a really once in a lifetime experience, which is that elevator scene. With this show, they are constantly like, no, this is a 3 foot by 3 foot room and there's 10 men in it. And Matt's just going to fight all of them.
Something I love about that too is I feel like they go in both directions. Something I found almost inspiring was the long shots of the sinking ship. And the thing about New York is that it is a lot of wide open spaces, but it also is also a lot of small spaces all packed on top of each other. And I think what you're describing so perfectly captures the spirit of New York in ways that a lot of productions in general don't get right, let alone action.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of things, you know, it's like even being cute about it, stuff like Friends doesn't acknowledge how claustrophobic New York is because it's not it's not great.
It's fake big TV apartments.
Right. Well,
giant that's what I'm saying. Apartments.
It's a giant apartment because it's not really fun to think about doing this entire show in a realistic New York apartment. But that sort of discomfort is actually what makes Daredevil fun, because it's just so gripping and in a lot of ways upsetting. Like everything feels higher stakes and more painful, you know, because it's also just a challenge. The more space you have, the more people literally can move. And when you're trying to choreograph a fight scene, that space is helpful. Choreographing just really intensely beautiful is not the right word, but just really satisfying fight scenes in some guy's apartment that feels like a New York apartment. It just impresses me every time.
I love that. And I think the other thing I want to put out there that impresses me every time is this show learning from its mistakes. The whole first season had to be retooled around finding out that people didn't like the direction it was going in. And so this season started with Vanessa in a big role, with Karen in a big role. Those sound like responses people had to the original outline of season 1. We got so much to think about the past with here. I want to ask you guys a little future question. You guys surprised that next week is going to drop 2 and 3? Because that's double to talk about.
Well, it was episodes 5 and 6 in season 1 that dropped double last year as well. It was the premiere and the second episode, and then it was 5 and 6. So I think it's interesting, A, that it was not the premiere, and B, that there's precedence already for late double drops. So I wonder if this will be the only one. And yeah, I really wonder what the source of that is.
Do we have a firm date for the Punisher special?
So we have May 12th, which evidently comes the week after the Daredevil finale.
Which I wonder then if there won't be any double ups because we have the full schedule
that's what
that ends us. Yeah, and so they want to get us to immediately the next week going into Punisher. So who knows? But I like the double drop. I'm fine when they do it. I do like to talk. I'll talk about we'll talk about a whole movie on this show. So 2 Daredevils is just a good movie.
I also had forgotten that it's already picked up for a 3rd season.
Yeah.
This is the 3rd show to have a 2nd season, and I believe it is the first from this Disney Plus era to get a 3rd. So if nothing else, I'm feeling tentatively and nervously secure in this TV show right now, and I have been so satisfied with so many choices they've already made. So I'm really hoping that there is a genuine, creative, intentional reason that we would need a double drop next week. I'm excited on that end, but it might just be 2 episodes, which I'll still enjoy, but I hope that there is like a reason that they need to do it that way.
I love that. And Kevo, until we come back to talk about the next 2 episodes of Daredevil, where can everybody find you online?
You can find me on social media, especially Threads, at Kevoreally. That's KEVOREALLY.
TK, same question.
You can find me at TK Accidental on all your socials.
As for me, you guys can check out the music in the background at Nico Action Music, NICOACTIONMUSIC. If you guys want to talk to me, that's Nico Action, NICOACTION on all your socials. But definitely like, comment, and subscribe on this show, whether you're watching it here on YouTube at X4Comics or you're listening to the podcast version. You're going to catch some extra material on the podcast version, so definitely check that one out. And 3 things you guys can do for yourselves. Number 1, please stay safe. Number 2, please be brave. Number 3, evolve daily. Who you were yesterday, amazing. Who you are today, incredible. But who you are tomorrow, that's the dream, and we can't wait to see you. So until you're born again, stay without fear.